In the year 2000, Netflix called Blockbuster and offered to sell the entire company for $50 million. Blockbuster CEO laughed. He actually laughed and walked them out.
10 years later, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Netflix is now worth around $300 billion. That one meeting may be an hour long. That's how fast it can go.
And here's the thing, Blockbuster isn't special. The same story, a different name, a different industry, a different decade, has played out over and over again to giants, to companies that seemed untouchable.
Welcome to Think Now podcast. I am Varun.
And I am Abhishek. Today we're walking through 6 of the biggest corporate collapses you've probably heard of. Not company by company, but theme by theme. Because the real story isn't about any single business. It's about the same human mistakes, showing up again and again across completely different industries and decades.
Same script, different actors, every single time.
Let's go.
There's a very specific moment in every successful company story where confidence stops being a strength and starts being a trap. It's subtle, you don't see it happening, and by the time you do, it has already done its damage.
It's when the leader stops asking questions, stops being a little bit scared, starts believing that they have cracked something permanent, that the rules applying to everyone else somehow don't apply to them anymore.
Vijay Mallya launched Kingfisher Airlines in 2005, and it genuinely was unlike anything India had ever seen. Hot pink planes, gourmet food at 35,000 feet, designer uniforms. He wasn't just selling flights, he was selling a fantasy. And it worked. Kingfisher became the second largest airline in India. Mallya became a legend.
And then, while the airline was quietly bleeding cash, he bought a F1 team. Threw New Year parties on private islands, bought yachts, multiple yachts. He named them Indian Empress. The irony escaped everyone, except apparently Mallya.
Employees were going months without salaries. Planes were getting grounded, banks were calling every week, and Mallya kept performing confidence because admitting the problem felt like pulling the curtain on his entire identity. Not just a company, him.
He fled India in 2016, owes banks over many crore rupees. Around several thousand people lost their jobs. He's currently in the UK living comfortably while the legal battle is still on.
Ramalinga Raju is a completely different kind of story. No parties, no yachts, quiet guy. Built Satyam Computers into one of India's biggest IT firms. 53,000 employees, and it was listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
And then on January 7, 2009, he sat down and wrote a letter to his own board of directors, confessing that he'd been faking the accounts for years. Several thousand crores rupees in cash just didn't exist, made up on paper for years.
His explanation was almost poetic in how tragic it was. He said it started small, a tiny adjustment here, a rounded up number there just to meet investor expectations. Then it snowballed. He said he was riding a tiger and too scared to get off because he knew what would happen the moment he did.
That's a different kind of God complex. Not the loud, party throwing kind, the quiet kind, where you believe you're smart enough to keep all the plates spinning forever, that you'll figure it out, that there's always one more quarter to fix it.
Spoiler, you cannot.
And then there's BlackBerry. RIM's co-CEO literally invented the modern smartphone. BlackBerry was the iPhone before the iPhone existed. The presidents used it. Wall Street ran on it.
When Apple launched the iPhone in 2007, the co-CEO of BlackBerry, Mike Lazaridis, basically said it wouldn't work. Battery would die, networks couldn't handle it, and it was a gimmick. He wasn't stupid, he was one of the most technically brilliant people in that room, but he was completely in love with what he had already built, and that love made him blind.
From 50% of the US smartphone market in 2009 to under 3% by 2013. It was 4 years in the making.
The thread through all three, they confused expertise with immunity. They stopped learning, and the moment you stop learning, you start becoming the cautionary tale that they teach in an MBA class.
All three of them now are, by the way.
There's a concept in aviation called get there it is. It's when a pilot is so locked on to the destination that they ignore every warning signal telling them to turn back. Bad weather, low fuel, or even instruments going off.
Plane crashes because of it. Businesses too. just slower and with more PowerPoint presentations along the way.
Blockbuster. Let's go back to that 2000 meeting. Netflix wasn't even the Netflix that we know now. They were a DVD by mail startup, losing money. They flew to Dallas, walked into Blockbuster's headquarters, and offered to sell to Netflix for around $50 million.
Blockbuster's CEO, John Antico, passed. He thought Netflix was a niche business for people who like science fiction and didn't like leaving houses. Cute, but not real threat.
Fast forward to 2004, Antioco actually launched Blockbuster Online. No late fees, home delivery. And it was working. They were catching up, and then the board panicked about the short term profits and forced them out of the company. And the new CEO killed the online strategy entirely.
In 2008, the new CEO, Jim Keyes, said that I don't think Netflix is gonna be even on our radar screen in terms of competition.
Netflix. Not on their radar?
2 years later, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. 9,000 employees gone. The signal was there in 2000, then 2004. Every year, the world was screaming, adapt or die. Blockbuster's response? Open more physical stores.
Border Books, founded in 1971. By the 1990s, it was a cultural institution. Massive stores, coffee shops inside the store, and even comfortable chairs. People didn't just buy books there, they spent their entire Sunday afternoons there.
In 1995, Jeff Bezos started selling books online from a garage in Seattle. Borders looked like that and essentially said, cute hobby, Jeff.
Then, in 2001, and this is the part that physically hurts, Borders outsourced their entire online businesses to Amazon. They handed their digital future to the exact person, which is Jeff Bezos, who would eventually destroy them.
Imagine handing your biggest competitor a key to your house and asking them to water your plants, except that plant was their entire business. That's what Borders did. Then e-readers, then Kindle in 2007. Every single year, the world was screaming, go digital or die. The response? Open bigger physical stores, sign more expensive long-term leases, and more square footage, bold strategy, I believe.
2011, they filed for bankruptcy. 10,000 jobs were gone. And you know what? Over $1 billion in debt.
Radio Shack is almost more heartbreaking because they generally had everything that they needed to survive. Several thousand stores across America, a brand built on electronics, loyal customers who actually loved the place.
When smartphones took over, Radio Shack could have been the destination for accessories, repairs, smart home gadgets, wearables. They had the stores, the staff, the brand recognition, of course. They had almost everything.
Then e-readers, then Kindle in 2007. Every single year, the world was screaming, go digital or die. The response? Open bigger physical stores, sign more expensive long-term leases, and more square footage, bold strategy, I believe.
2011, they filed for bankruptcy. 10,000 jobs were gone. And you know what? Over $1 billion in debt.
Radio Shack is almost more heartbreaking because they generally had everything that they needed to survive. 7,000 stores across America, a brand built on electronics, loyal customers who actually loved the place.
When smartphones took over, Radio Shack could have been the destination for accessories, repairs. When smartphones took over, Radio Shack could have been the destination for accessories, repairs, smart home gadgets, and even wearables. They had the stores, the staff, and even the brand recognition. They literally had everything.
Instead, they decided to compete with Verizon and AT&T as a mobile carrier reseller. That's the business equivalent of your local chai stall deciding to take on Starbucks.
They ran a Super Bowl ad in 2014, which is one of the most expensive ad slots on the planet, announcing that they have reinvented themselves. And you know what? It was actually genuinely good ad.
6 months later, they filed for bankruptcy. Millions in the ad, nothing spent on actual transformation. When your own employees can't explain what your store sells, that is the signal. That's the plain beeping.
And here's the uncomfortable thing. Intelligence doesn't protect you from denial. If anything, smart people are better at building convincing arguments for why the warning signs don't apply to them. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Whether that's literally true or historians still argue about it, but the pattern it describes happens in business often, and it takes a very specific shape.
When companies are scared, they perform confidence, big campaigns, splashy launches, because admitting the problem feels like accelerating the collapse. Just like saying it loud makes it real.
By 2010, Kingfisher was in a very serious trouble. Mounting loans, unpaid staff, and grounded planes. That same year, Malia threw one of the most lavish New Year's parties India had ever seen. Private island and international artists.
His defenders say personal wealth is separate from company finances. Technically true, but when you are the face of the brand, your lifestyle is the company's credibility. Every party sends one message. I'm not scared, which made everyone else absolutely terrified.
Blockbuster's last party came in 2008. While Netflix was eating them alive, they ran a massive no more late fees campaign. Huge billboards, national ads all over the country, and you know what? The stores looked busier for almost a month.
Except that they haven't fixed the late fees model. They reframed the charge as a restocking fee. Customers noticed. It became a PR disaster on top of an operational disaster. They dressed up the problem in fresh clothes and hoped no one would look too closely.
Radio Shack's last party was that Super Bowl ad. Genuinely fun to watch, completely hollow because the stores hadn't changed. The strategy hadn't changed. They repainted a sinking ship and took photos in front of it.
And Borders, as digital was eating them alive, decided the answer was to expand, more flagship stores, more expensive leases locked in for years. It's like your house is on fire and you decide this is the perfect moment to renovate the kitchen. New tiles, statement backsplash, the whole thing.
The cruelest part of the story? You know what? You know what was the cruelest part of the last story? The people performing the confidence are almost never the ones who pay the price. That bill always lands somewhere else.
Every collapse has an headline: CEO arrested, stock crashes, brand disappearing. Analysts do their postmortems, business schools add it to their syllabus.
And behind every headline is a very long list of names that never makes the news.
When Satyam collapsed, 53,000 employees came to work that morning not knowing if the company still existed. Many had stock options as part of their pay, gone overnight. Freshers who had just taken home loans based on their Satyam salary suddenly in complete freefall.
Tech Mahindra then eventually stepped in and saved most of their jobs. But the psychological damage, the broken trust, that doesn't show up in any financial report.
Kingfisher's 7,000 employees were owed months of unpaid salaries: pilots, cabin crew, ground staff. People who kept showing up even when their checks bounced. Because what else can you do?
Some sold their personal assets just to manage household expenses. There were sit-ins at airline offices. Employees were literally just asking to be paid their basic salary. It went nowhere. Malia was in London.
To be completely clear, he was in London with the yachts, plural. Blockbuster's 9,000 employees found out about the bankruptcy from the news. Many had worked there for over a decade. Retirement plans tied to a company stock were essentially worthless, and the towns that relied on Blockbuster as the main entertainment hub, some never got anything to replace it.
When border books fell, they owed publishers and vendors over $300 million. And here's what nobody talks about: small independent publishers, poetry collections, regional voices, niche titles. Border Books was such a massive buyer that some of these publishers had built their entire business around that one relationship, that one single relationship. And when Border Books snapped, they snapped with it.
That's called contagion. It almost never makes the main story. The lesson here isn't just about strategy, it's about responsibility. When people depend on what you build, you owe them just more than just a good. The lesson here isn't just about strategy, it's about responsibility. When people depend on what you build, you owe them more than just good intentions and a confident press release. Here's the uncomfortable truth that ties all of this together. I want you to sit with it for a second.
None of these companies were run by idiots. Border Books had MBAs and consultants. Radio Shack had world-class engineers. BlackBerry had brilliant product designers. Satyam was literally an IT company full of tech people. Blockbuster had a functioning online business that was actually working, and they killed it themselves.
And yet,
The God complex is still alive and running companies today. The WeWork company, valued at $47 billion, their CEO genuinely believed he was building a physical social network and a new form of consciousness. Theranos was so convinced of the vision that reality got quietly replaced with fiction, and nobody inside felt safe saying anything. Saying anything.
the ignored signals are still being ignored. Ask yourself right now, which industries today look like borders in 2005? Successful? Established? Quietly refusing to move? Parts of traditional media? Corners of legacy banking? Some edtech companies sitting on massive funding? Zero real engagement? Somehow, they're still opening new offices.
And in every single company we studied today, there were people inside who knew that, who flagged the problems, who asked the uncomfortable questions. But you know what? They were told to stay in their lane.
So if you're somewhere right now where uncomfortable questions get shut down, where bad news never reaches the top floor. So if you're somewhere right now where uncomfortable questions get shut down, where bad news never reaches the top floor, pay attention to that. That is the early signal, the instruments beeping before the crash.
Six companies, six completely different industries, the same core story running through all of them. Leaders who stop being curious, stop being honest, or stop caring about the real humans who depend on what they built.
The good news? These are all learnable things. Curiosity is a habit, honesty is a practice, and accountability is a choice that you make in some small, quiet moments, long before it becomes a big public one.
Most people are sleepwalking through their careers. Genuinely. That's not even a criticism. It's just true. And that's actually your advantage if you choose to use it.
Thank you for listening to the Think Now podcast. If something today stuck with you, share it with that one person who needs it. Only your boss. Don't tell them that you said that.
I am Varun. Stay curious, stay uncomfortable. See you next time.
And always ask the hard questions, even when no one else is.